Mike here, out in the new garage, and today I begin by turning the lights on. I begin working on my 2016 Indian Scout 60. This is going to be first of a couple of videos I got planned for the bike, but this one's pretty interesting. I bought brand new accessories. I got in just in time before it went out of stock again. It's the 2022 Accessory Tachometer, and it's available for all Scouts. Indian doesn't put it yet as an OEM item directly on the bikes. Ordered it through the dealership. It's now out of stock, so I lucked out. So we're going to install this today, and it's going to be cool because I've always wanted an actual tachometer other than, you know, all Scouts kind of have the little readout of the RPM as a digital readout below the analog sweep gauge. But it's pretty cool. I like it. It's racy, and it's kind of a 50th birthday present to myself. I ordered it in February, and it took about a month to get here. Got a lot of work to do because for something, you know, it's about this big, there's a lot of crap I got to pull off the bike to get to it. So let's get started. My garage has a heater in it, so if it kicks on from time to time during the video, that's what it is. So let's start by checking out what we got in the box here. It's warm enough in the garage that I can take my jacket off, even though it's snowing outside. So let's get stuck in, check out this tachometer in the box here on the lift, and see what we got. Just picked this up recently from my dealership, and if you go on Indian's website for the accessories, they used to provide the instructions in the box. They don't do that anymore, so you got to go to the website and print it out, which is pretty straightforward. But then I realized part of this process for the accessory tack install, other than taking the speedo off the bike, you actually got to remove the fuel tank. The way they get the CAN bus signal to the little tachometer, a data cable that goes back to the diagnostic port, which isn't a big deal. If the bike has to go in for service, you know, they just unplug the tack, plug in the diagnostic port, they can get whatever they need off of that, and then they plug everything back in when, you know, the bike's done being serviced. So this is pretty cool. It literally is plug and play for the wiring. The rest of it is, well, there are 9 pages. Scout service manual, never leave home without it. You're gonna be working on your bike. You know, we've got a few bikes here between Melly and I. I highly recommend getting the service manual. I mean, it's not dirt cheap, but it's, you know, it'll pay for itself. Certainly just for torque values. Also, you know, even if you don't do the work yourself on your bike for a lot of service items, you can go in here and you can see exactly what the dealer's going to end up doing. That way you know what they're charging you for labor seems legit, or if it seems like a little pricey. You know, it's good to have. Ooh, magical box of stuff. In case you all want to know, that is the part number. It is part number 2889304-02. It's the gauge tack. This one's in Indian red, so it'll match my style of gauge. The bobbers have this like black and gray, kind of like almost like a carbon fiber look to it, and they have a different version of this that matches that, so you have to make sure you order the right one. Speedo and then the min-tach. So this gets sandwiched between the factory speedometer and the housing that it mounts into. There's a spacer / reinforcement plate that goes on the inside of the speedometer housing, the little tachometer itself, the interface harness. So one end goes into the mini tachometer, and the other one, you notice, has the this kind of purple connector on it. This goes into the diagnostic port on the Scout. So I've actually got to get access under the seat, and I also got to pull the fuel tank off because I got to route this under the fuel tank. It's relatively simple, but there's a lot of steps to it. Housing cover for it, so it covers up the back end. Makes it look nice. Now begins the fun part. Kind of see the breakdown of bits there. And the first step is going to be taking the seat off my bike, because I got to take the fuel tank off. These instructions here are specific to a standard Scout seat. I've got the 1920 solo seat. You know, that's going to be different than these steps. I already know how to do it because I have the instructions that came with the seat itself. So step 1 is going to be pulling that seat off. I now have a wild Melly who's come out to the garage to help me with camera duties. Say hi, Melly.
Hi, Melly.
All right. If you have the accessory grab rail, there's actually 2 sets of bolts on this. One's, I believe, was it 5mm? This one's a little bit bigger. You actually want to take loose the larger set of bolts because you don't need to take the grab rail off to take the seat off. How many times I got to check which way the ratchet's going now? There we go. Not that Either one of us haven't done that before.
Happens to me all the time.
Let's see if my never sees is paid off here. It comes off pretty easy. They should change the name of that to never cuts instead of never sees. So that bitch strips out in there, you're gonna be cussing up a storm. See? Worked like a champ. Should now just lift up and away. So you got this little notch here, and it just has these threaded inserts, and you got the Allen screws that come up to the bottom. So that's your seat base. You don't actually need to take the grab rail off. And then these are the 4 bolts that hold the back of the tank. But all that is in your Indian instructions that comes with this seat. Though I had to download mine. So the factory seat doesn't actually use these. Actually, the factory seat comes off without any tools whatsoever. It just kind of snaps in place. It's not as nifty as the custom seat on your Speedmaster.
No.
I'll take it. And I believe 2 of these are longer than the other one. I just got a little plastic bin to hold my bolts. Man, the lift is so much nicer than laying on the floor trying to do all this crap.
Yep.
You know the video I got with me doing the Bassani 2-in-1, like, you know, and all the power commander, all that stuff? I was laying on the floor the whole time with that.
Yep.
Major suckage. Hold on to this, dude, because that last bolt's the only thing keeping it from crashing into the paintwork.
Very nice paint job.
This dude comes off, and I'll set it over here with the seat. I like to use the short stubby one up here because there's less, plus the handle's plastic, but there's less swing to it. I have less chances of banging into my paint and crying a river because I just screwed it all up. It's almost as if I've had this off a few times. Almost. Yeah, my poor Scout was in storage forever while we were getting a garage rebuilt. And I had to put a new battery in it because the garage did not have power. I gotta get a wrench for that. What size do you think it is, Mel?
15.
15?
Or 17. Oh, I don't know. Could
We'll
be
pick
13. Go with 15, right
15?
in the middle.
All right.
Try that first.
Melly says 15.
It's a guess.
15? Fail!
13.
It's kind of fun. 13. One of these days, my dumb ass is going to get a friggin' bolt organizer so I can, or bolt, what am I saying?
Socket organizer?
Yeah, a socket organizer. So I can friggin' keep track of all this stuff. Now it's like, you know, this is like digging for Legos.
Yeah.
You dump out the giant tub of Legos and then you can't find nothing.
Yeah. Gotta keep you organized.
You'd think I never worked in the garage with my own tools before.
What is he doing back there?
His wrench.
I don't know what he's doing.
It's a 12. Wrong the whole time.
Oh, dang.
Of course, if I had half a brain, I would have looked at the service manual. It's like right there. I even pointed it out at the beginning. So, I'm gonna like edit this, right, to make us look like geniuses? No. I'm gonna let everyone know that I'm an idiot. So, apparently, that's 12 millimeter. So refer to your service manual. Well, look, it fits. Imagine that. There you go. This is actually where the stud goes. So the factory seat has a stud, and the front of the seat clips into that, and then just kind of mounts into place. There's another plate that goes here. That's why there's plastic covers there for this National Cycle solo rack. This guy's a little fun. So to get this plastic bit off, you actually have to raise the tank up slightly so that it clears it. And that is your close-off plate. Normally this is all hidden under your seat. This end of this dude plugs into the diagnostic port. And that's where it gets the CAN bus signal to drive the tachometer. Well, the trick now is to get your little fingers in there to unbury the plug. These are a wee bit tight down in here. Just a bit tight. Good grief. Gee, can I cram some more stuff under here? Indian's like, yeah, let's throw a couple more plugs under there. All right, I think I got it. I'll totally edit this to make it look like I did this like in 10 seconds, right, Mel?
Yeah. Are you done faffing about?
Oh yeah, I'm just doing this for fun now. Most people, if you're watching by now, going, shit, I'm taking it to the dealer, screw that noise. I'm too cheap. It keeps getting hooked on the edge of its connector and sucking itself back down in the hole of no return there. Okay. There it goes. Aha. Success! It even says, let's see if I can get it out further. I'm going to have to so I can plug in. There we go. It says diagnostic. So your tachometer plugs into the diagnostic port. Oh, that was fun. Well, I found it. This accessory tachometer is actually designed to fit on all Scouts. It doesn't matter what year, from the first Scout, the Scout Bobber, the 60s, the Bobber 60, the new Rogue. It doesn't matter. It fits them all because it's plugging directly into the CAN bus connector. So there's that part of it now, Mel. The next part, according to the instructions here, so technically all of my faffing about only got me to like the second page. And what they want me to do is they want me to disconnect the fuel tank and actually take it completely off the bike. This is the overflow / vent tube. It's got to get unplugged, and it just comes undone, assuming you can get your mitts in there to do it. Of course, we know it's almost completely full of fuel too. That makes it easy. There we go. So if you take your block of wood and stick it under there, inside of here, there are, it's probably easier to see it in the instructions here. And it's even from my side of the bike that I'm looking on, which would be the left side as you're riding it. There's a wiring harness for the fuel pump, and there's the quick disconnect for the fuel supply to the fuel injection. All right, so it's got 2 blue tabs on the side, and you just squeeze the connector and it comes off. I think I'll do the wiring harness plug first. What I'm doing is I'm feeling for the detent on the connector. There we go. And so that connector is now released. Mm-hmm. The detent was here, so you press in on this detent, and it just pops loose. Now I got more room to put my hands up in there. So there's, there we go. I got a little piece of blue paper towel down here. Didn't it actually? It caught the fuel pretty well. So it's a check valve, and when you disconnect the line, it shouldn't be dribbling any more gas. The operative word is shouldn't. Mm-hmm. The tank comes up and off. So I got this tilted a little bit because the tank's still full. And I want to raise it up in the back, not like stupid high, because I don't want to put a bunch of gas right at the top of the filler seal. I want it to be up a little bit so the vent tube's elevated, because it is full of gas. I don't want it dribbling out. But the ball valve in there, it's shut off. It's not leaking any more fuel other than what it piddled out when I first opened it up. So there's the... That sucker was heavy, man. So there's the coupling, and you got to squeeze it on the sides, and that's what releases the catch. And the valve is up in the tank. Actually, I think it's easier to remove it here, but then it's harder to get the fitting through the frame. They don't give you a lot of room, so it's a little tight. And I'll just sop up my gas that I got spilled. I'm sorry, my petrol. I shall clean up my petrol. It's petrol, not gas. I get gas all the time.
And how?
And how? Let me tell you. I was like, dude, let me tell you. That the gas this freaking dude puts out. Actually, it's kind of nice that we did this. Like I said, I just wanted to check. So this is my Trask intake. You know, it was 6 years ago this month that I bought the Scout. So I've had it for 6 years. Believe that?
6 years? Dang.
6 years. Filter's still clean. Even as a Trask filter, it's pretty much like a K&N filter. So you just wash it out with soapy water, blow it out. I just use K&N oil. That's why it's kind of pink. Next job here is I got to take the handlebars off. I really like where they're adjusted right now, specifically because I'm using underslung mirrors, and if the handlebar's not at the right angle and I turn the handlebars, these are going to run into the fuel tank. So I want to get it right back where it is right now. So the handlebar clamp on the Scout is also the speedo housing. It's a piece of cast aluminum. So I'm just going to make a reference mark with my Sharpie here. And then I'll know exactly where it has to go back when I put it back on. This is not covered in the instructions, by the way. This is me trying to be smarter than your average bear. Hey, boo-boo. No one who's seen, if someone hasn't seen Yogi Bear, they won't get that joke. The instructions have the torque settings for these bolts, by the way. I've never had these bolts out before, Mount. Moment of truth, did Indian use Loctite or not? Answer is no, there's no Loctite on there. There's not even any anti-seize on there. Where I take this all the way out and it gets loose. Let me grab some of these dudes here, since my tank's not leaking anything, so I can keep my bars and everything from getting all scratched up. There's a wider gap right here. Just wiggle it a little bit. There it goes. Bingo. Bingo. Oh dude, the handlebars didn't move. Dare I risk leaving it? Boy, they don't give you a lot of room. So there's a wiring harness connector here with a tab on it that I gotta yoink apart. So ultimately, it was needle nose pliers. I went and grabbed this tab in here, got underneath of it, and then bent it out, and then it released. Way easier than me futzing around with it, tearing my fingers up. These little Torx bolts, they gotta come loose. I hope I got a Torx driver. Let's start with that. I think I do. Well, I guess if you don't have a T20 and you're starting to do this job, you're gonna be sad. Yes, you're absolutely gonna need a T20 that they don't mention squadola in the instructions about. They just say remove it. Alrighty, I think we've gotten to the point where we've taken everything apart. So now we could start putting things back together again. Let me grab my stool sample. So I'm gonna drop it on the floor. It's been on here 6 years, Mel. It's not gonna get off here without a fight. Just had to use the almighty fingers. There we go. Oh, check that out. It's got like, it isn't just an O-ring, it's this whole thing's got like a corrugated gasket on it. This has got like an indexed portion on the housing. This does too, so that's going to go together like that. And that index is off of this guy here. So this shouldn't impact how waterproof this is. Just scooch that dude up there. So this is the reassembly phase here. I'm missing a part. So there's a spacer that's got to go on here next. This spacer helps space this thing away from the housing the same thickness as the bracket that holds the tachometer, so you have to use this. Otherwise, you're going to break the plastic, because when you draw the screws tighter, it'll have too much gap to take up, and it'll just break the plastic posts that hold this thing together. Put this on my stool sample. Quit saying stool sample, dude. Gross. That doesn't take up that gap enough, Mel.
What?
Well, this is a very early production version of this let's see, let me tighten it down some more. I don't want to over tighten it. I know it's got to compress that gasket. I think I need to source me a couple of wishers, because that's pretty tight. I mean, I'm just finger tight, right? And this is still loose on both ends. Now, if I ride down the road with that like that, that's gonna rattle and drive you nuts. Mm-hmm. That gasket's compressed. It doesn't go any tighter. It's on there exactly the way the instructions say it goes together. So I need some washers. This is not enough to take up the gap. So what I decided here was to use a couple of nylon washers. So I've got two, do this. That's gonna go on. And we'll put our nylon washers in here. These you can just get at Ace Hardware. Problem is putting it all together. Alrighty. So this is the top. Well, it's indexed, Mike. Duh. That's what the notch is for. Didn't I just say that, Mel? Ah! Mother. Dang it. Son of a... There it is.
Dang it. Dang it, Bobby.
How do we work smarter, not dumber?
You need a finger?
Not a finger. Back on the index mark. Ah, much better. That is definitely going to tighten proper like this time. Backing that screw up. Hear how it's seated down. Mm-hmm. I do that with wood. I do that with woodworking, so that you can tell where you're hitting the existing threads, because it's just threading into plastic. And if you just ram it in there, it'll cut new threads, and eventually it'll strip itself out. Tip of the day. Let's see if it actually works this time. Oh, I think we got a winner. Chicken dinner. Oh yeah. I don't have it compressed yet. See, now it's not clanging around in there. Squish it all the way down and make sure it's fully seated. Let's look at the instructions real quick, just in case they want me to put the gauge on the tachometer on before I put this back on the bike. Geez, Mike, why don't you read the instructions? That's exactly what they want me to do. Well, wouldn't you know it? All right. All right. I actually like this Permatex Loctite better than the Loctite brand Loctite. That makes sense. Yep. Dare I do the Aldi's nuts joke again?
Which nuts?
The nuts I got at Aldi. You mean Aldi's nuts? Yes, I mean Aldi's nuts. Like 0.02% of the people out there are going to get that joke. So I have to kind of center that because it's got enough room to wiggle around. And I don't want it out of position. I need another wrench. Besides myself, just got to be careful to not mess up the plastic, huh? I mean, it doesn't have to be stupid tight, right? It's just got a whole little cover on. I guess if you hold this down at an angle, you can kind of get it. It is plastic. It can go from type 1 plastic to type 2 plastic very quickly. What kind of plastic's that, Melly?
Broken.
Yep, plastic that's gonna break and plastic that's broken. Ta-da! So there's this wire cover the Scout 60s don't have, and mine has, because I bought it. So the parts. It's right here. Normally you'd be able to see it if I didn't have a fly shield on there. But it's covering up the path that the cable has to take. I will actually read the instructions this time, Mel. So I don't look like a complete dumbass all the time. I might actually have to take this handlebar loose to get this wire underneath of it. I don't think I got enough clearance for this plug under there. That would be a big no. All right, so the handlebar absolutely does have to come off. If you got a regular Scout or you bought the wire cover for the Scout 60, you are gonna need to take that off in order to fish the cable through. Fish this out. Yeah. Without banging into everything. Yes, I can. Whew. Accessory wire cover. Told you I make things harder on myself than they need to be. The benefit of being classically stupid, apparently. Alright. So now, before I fish that dude through there, I gotta take the handlebar loose. Well, this is why I marked it. There it goes. I don't have ABS bike, so this connector here kind of needs to go underneath the brake line. You want enough slack so that you can turn your handlebars left and right and not have it bind up on anything. I'll just leave this kind of droop there for now. Because now I gotta rotate this back up. This wire is supposed to go in, this is cast into the upper yoke. There's like these little fork things and the wire fits down inside of it. So here's where I need 3 hands. Get it centered where it needs to go. Put that back down there. Get all the wires out of the way. This is the part of the show where Melly puts the camera down. It helps me for a second because I've run out of arms.
Any day now.
I'm gonna go in the house and get a snack. You okay?
Yeah.
I don't have enough hands. Melly had to help. Because I got to plug the wiring harness that I fought with before back in for the speedo. Good news is my marks all line up perfectly, Melly. I promise I won't hit you in the head with a ratchet. This time. I think it's almost got enough bite that you can let go. So thanks to Melly, I was able to get this handlebar on there, the speedo plugged in, and man, let me tell you, that was fun. You need 2 people. It was a pain in the ass. The line reference mark that I drew on there with the Sharpie were right on the money. So everything should be exactly back where it was. I'm squishing the clamps down equally. I haven't started torquing it yet. I'm just kind of doing a crisscross pattern. Because with the handlebar clamps, you can totally smash one side way the hell down and have nothing but a huge gap on the other side, meaning that, you know, this gap here, you want to try and compress them equally on both edges. And I'm pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and torque it. According to the instructions, this guy is 22 foot-pounds, 30 newton meters. I'll double check, I've got it all centered back up. I'm looking for the witness marks on the powder coating. That's how I knew it wasn't centered, Mel. And I had to push the bar that way. All right. First one, good exercise. Dude, do you even lift? Nah, man, I work on bikes. Let me get in your way, Mel.
I just see the back of your neck. That's all.
You can move.
Oh yeah. Okay.
There it is. That is an unnerving feeling, tightening them bad boys up.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a steel bolt going into cast aluminum. I'm just waiting for it to go strip. And then the 4-letter words flow like water.
Nuts.
No, there's not going to be a nuts. Not even all these nuts. Now I got to route
What?
route the wires.
What?
Huh? The who's it goes into the what's it. So this guy just plugs into the tachometer. It just plugs in, as in it just fits. So this is supposed to follow this route here along the wiring harness.
This thing's got a mind of its own, I tell you.
You were it.
This thing.
I think if I just zip tie wrap it to the factory harness right at the top of the head tube here, it should have the slack it needs, because this has enough slack for the handlebars to go lock to lock. Little semicircle opening there, and wiring harness passes through there. It's clicked in the bottom of the tachometer. It comes through the cable management that's built into the upper yoke on the bike. The brake line does not get in the way of anything, and I've got it tucked as close as I can to the wiring harness that goes into the headlight bucket, and then right at the head tube it makes a curve, and then I start tie wrapping, zip tying it to the main harness cable. And I made sure that it's only attached to this cable and not this one, because I think the way Indian did it, it passes through the frame here, and then it's kind of zip tied there. And this is the tank mount for the fuel tank. This has enough slack in it so it'll move back and forth as you turn the handlebars, and then so that's the cable. It just follows the path of the wiring harness. It had these two zip ties on it from the factory, so I put new ones on it right where it went. Then it tucks underneath all this. That's my power commander box, battery tender lead. Not a lot of room for all this stuff. So that wire goes right down along the side, tucks under the main harness, which is right here, and comes out here. So last thing I got to do here is take off the harness plug for a diagnostic port and plug this dude in there. There we go, she's plugged in. Then fish it back down in the black hole that I'll never find it again from. Oh yeah, there's tons of room. That fits in there, and it's not squishing nothing down. I do have to. The bolts that come down here, I'm always paranoid that they're going to hit the harness. But I mean, that's the way Indian did it, so it's not like, you know, I see it's a little bit of chafing right there, but just leaving that up there should be fine. It's not going to foul on anything. Sweet, because I wanted to dig it out anyhow. All right, per Melly's expert decision earlier, we're going to lower the bike so it's easier to put the fuel tank on. I have to lift it up slightly here now so I can pull out the safety pin. We'll put it in the second position. And this other foot lever here is it lets the pressure off the pump. Carefully, carefully. There we go. Boy, they do not give you a lot of room to work in this bike. Now I gotta find that friggin' fuel fitting. There it is. Why must everything fight me, Mel?
That's its job.
There it goes. Ready?
Click.
Click. All right. So, I gotta get these vent lines on next, because it's two plastic lines that run through there, and there's like no room to get your hand in here to do this stuff, and it's got to go over two barbs. So, you just use the force in four-letter words, and it'll get in there just fine. There it goes. Almost became one with the bike. Scooch my power commander back where he belongs. Now I can put the plastic cover on. But you know what I should do?
What?
I should get the key on, make sure that cycles, and then I have power going to the speedo. Otherwise, it's all coming right back off, right?
Oh.
All right.
Okay, do that.
Moment of truth, Mel.
Okay.
Well, speedo and a tacho work because, let me key it on again. It works! Now I can just put it all back together again.
Okay.
Alrighty, so putting this back together is exactly the opposite of the way we disassembled it. The trick to this guy here, so you don't destroy your paint, is you gotta kind of pick up the tank slightly as you're setting it down. And it fits, it's supposed to fit between the sides of the frames and tuck under the fuel tank. And it's just to hide all of this when the seat mount is on for the solo seat. And that's it. Let me get this buttoned up and then we can finish, Mel.
Nice.
Then it's cold snack time.
Cold snacks. Yeah, cold snacks.
With Melly's help, I was able to finish the install of this. Everything works. It's all back together. I still need to clean up the bike from it being in storage, but at least I cleaned the bits that I can't get to. But the seat's back on, bolts are torqued down. I'm not going to go through all that because I made a whole video on how to install that 1920 solo seat from Indian Accessories, and there's not a lot to that. The hardest part about doing it was the handlebars, right?
Yeah.
So, cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Cold snacks. Vice Grip Garage, thank you very much. Good stuff, huh?
Mm-hmm.
What you drinking, Millie?
It's Blake's hard cider. Grizzly pear.
Grizzly pear.
Grizzly pear.
Pretty good. Oh, you got the TC Brothers cozy.
Made with pears, not bears.
Thanks for watching. There'll be more videos on the Scout coming up. Maybe a Melly sighting here and there. Just gotta mess everything up. Thanks for watching. Till we see you next time. Take it easy.
Cheers.